and welcome back to this channel. I am the Spellsinger, and this is my ongoing review of the Way of the Tiger Adventure Gamebook series. And this review is going to give you a quick look at this title with its book number, and then I will read the blurb, check out the plot, and talk a bit about the game mechanics and the adventure sheet, and then I'll run the artwork through this video and talk a bit about that, and then over some of my own likes and dislikes, some fun facts, and then we'll finish on a summary and a score out of 10 for this book. So this is book 5. This is Warbringer by Mark Smith and Jamie Thompson, and this came out in 1986. And Bob Harvey is back on board doing the illustrations. Now, in the UK, we got this cover here, which is a suitably nasty depiction of something that I'll go into a bit later. But you've got the Avenger there on horseback. Very nice front cover. But in the US, you've got this cover here. Just very different, isn't it? I mean, they are really different covers. Slightly different depiction, but you still got Avenger there in the foreground. But if you were to buy this book as a modern release, you will get this cover here, which is kind of like a knock back to the original one, with the creature in the background there, and Avenger as well. So yeah, very cool, very, I mean, this cover for me really stands out well, probably the most out of the three, I would say. But yeah, all very different, all very good. So this book, the blurb for this one, if I read my copy, it says here, triumphant from your perilous quest for the sceptre and orb, vital to the continuation of your rule of Irsmuncast, you have returned to chaos. Your city is overrun by evil hordes, and Honoric, leader of the Dread Legion of the Sword of Doom, has vowed to kill you and bring your people into slavery. With Warbringer, the Way of the Tiger lifts role-playing adventures yet further into the future. In addition to using your skills as a ninja, you will need to muster an army and plan strategies and tactics for the battle against the evil Honoric. So that's the blurb. A nice little insight into this 5th book. But the plot for this one, the story, so you become the general of the army, of your army, of Irsmuncast. Now remember, at the end of Overlord, you appear back at the castle from your attempt at getting those 2 artifacts, the orb and the sceptre. So you've got them in hand, but the city of Irsmuncast is in flames. So you've got your city actively fighting off all these orcs and dark elves that have all come from the Rift, which is obviously literally next door. So Irsmuncast is first in line for attack. Now this evasion, while you were gone, is merely the vanguard, if you like, of Honoric. Yeah, he's back again, and he's amassing this army to destroy you. So you've got to survive the fighting and kind of regroup with your city and your friends. Go across country once you've done that to recruit some more allies. So you kind of gotta find other cities and allies to try and team up with for the big final push, which is to direct the final battle to defeat Honoric, kind of once and for all. So you know how book 4 was kind of like a change from your kind of ninja journey. Books 1 to 3 were almost like a trilogy, and then it got all political in book 4, but now it's like the end fight, a kind of war strategy with a bit of ninja action thrown in as well. So really good. So now it's obviously the 5th game book, so in this Way of the Tiger series, and it takes off from exactly where Overlord left, so literally the same day. So where it left off, it introduces you another kind of interesting element to its campaign design, like I say, which is this battle strategy, this war strategy. which is really smart. So you're still Avenger, obviously, the Overlord of Irsmuncast. And in Overlord, you established your rule and you succeeded in travelling to the end of the Man March to retrieve those 2 lost artefacts, that orb and sceptre. But however, you return, like I say, to find your city in shambles, attacked by the forces of the Rift, led by that powerful dark elf, I think his name's Shadazar. He's a sorcerer. He's like the head honcho. So if you can take him out, the rest should all fall. And at the same time, you receive this letter from Honoric, Lord of Doomover, and one of the most powerful generals, obviously, of the war, Vashro. I think he's the war god of Vashro. So he's yet to get over the fact that you nearly killed him back at Quenchheart Keep. Remember that in Book 1, Avenger, where you watched him as he slept and did the old poison down the thread into his mouth, and you thought you killed him, and then news came in Book 2 that he wasn't dead, and then you got in a bit of a fisticuffs with him in Book 3. He was a bit quieter in 4, but now he's back in Book 5. So, and he now intends to lead this huge army to take over your city. But if you don't do anything against Shadazar first, this sorcerer, and her army, there won't be anything left. So you got to deal with that first. So that's the story. A very good plot. Works really well. Lots of new exciting stuff to do. But let's talk a bit about the game mechanics and look at the adventure sheet. So again, the game mechanics, they are consistent. They remain the same for individual combat. But where you are dealing with army warfare, that's where things change. So we have this new system, and you'll be in charge of all these divisions. So once you go up into the north, I'll put up a map here so you can see the battlefield. There's a river kind of like splitting it in two. So you're in the south and Honoric's army are in the north. You've got a few bridges over the river, little choke points where you want to think about where to plan, where to place your regiments, your artillery, your cavalry, your infantry. Very clever. Once you've got all that in your head, where your archers are going to be, where your mages will be, where you will be, you can start to sort of work out a battle strategy. So depending on how well you performed in the last few books, decisions you made may determine what kind of allies you can bring into this final battle. So depending on what kind of decisions you made in book 3 and 4, might sort of sway this for you. Maybe you didn't make the right connections or friends that you thought you had. So the more allies you can take into this final battle, the better. So certainly book 4 and 5, early part of this book 5, the choices you made will determine the size of this army and the knowledge you've gained on the status of Honoric's army as well. And the battlefield takes place, like I say, up in the north of Irsmuncast, and both edges, like shown here, are split by this river, and you basically get given all these choices of where you place your divisions and when to advance, and then it kind of plays out as like a choice-driven narrative, and the maps will change depending on where you've placed your regiments. So it's really smart. It works perfectly well for this book. You even get to face off against Honoric again. So there are all these various artistic maps throughout the book, like I mentioned, which detail the lay of the land, and these vary as the battle progresses. So this is like a war game within a game book. So it's quite smart, and they vary, like I mentioned, as the battle progresses. So while sending out your regiments to face the opposing army, the speed of your regiments is taken into consideration as well, and their morale. So while you're getting involved in that, you can sort of see which regiments are struggling, which are doing well, and then the system kind of pushes the boundary quite nicely of game books in general, beyond anything that I've read. Certainly at this time, while 1986, during this, there wasn't really anything quite like this epic, this kind of Warhammer feel to it. So hats off to Thompson and Smith for coming up with this plan. They really worked hard, actually, Smith and Thompson, very hard to sort of make a workable game mechanic to suit this epic end battle, and it works really well. A little bit on the modifiers. So I think I mentioned in the previous reviews, you get these punch, kick, throw, and fate modifiers. So, for example, if you picked up a gauntlet or a sword, you can increase your modifier by maybe 1, and that will obviously make an impact on how successful your attack rounds are in the future. But suitably, you can also get like a fate modifier. So if you've been particularly lucky or you have some kind of amulet, you can increase your fate modifier by 1 as well to make yourself more lucky. But it works in reverse as well. So if you suffer a really bad injury, you might find that your kick modifier is -1. So thereby making kicks that much harder to perform successfully. So that's quite smart as well. But this is nothing new. These modifiers, they're run throughout the whole series. But I just thought I'd touch on them here because they become quite important in this final battle against Honoric. The ninja moves are the same. So you've got all the punches, kicks, and throws as depicted in this cool little image here. So no real change there, and as usual, the artwork works really well with this because you can kind of get an idea about what kind of character you're up against, what kind of opponent, and then think about what moves might be suitable. So that's really smart, and it's a running trait throughout this series, very smart. So as well as that, no change to the adventure sheet either. This is the one adventure sheet you'll get for this series, and it depicts obviously your combat ratings, your ninja tools, any special items or notes that you have. So no real change there. As far as I can remember, it stays this way for the final books 6 and 7 as well. Right, let's talk about the artwork for Warbringer. Bob Harvey returns as illustrator, the favourite of Mark Smith and Jamie Thompson, illustrating this entire series, of course. And as you know, Harvey, he was involved in fighting fantasy as well, but he also got involved on other science fiction fantasy projects as well as just not just fighting fantasy and Where the Tiger, but he dipped his hand into quite a lot of other projects. So these included the famous 5 Dragon Warriors and all these assorted Penguin and Usborne books as well. Now, Harvey was a member of the Pennant Illustration Agency as well. So yeah, really diverse, got involved in a lot of different projects. Now, Warbringer provides the usual array of landscapes, really fantastic landscapes, lots of characters and creatures that are hand-drawn beautifully in this book, but he also remains consistent to the previous books in terms of like the quality and all that attention to detail. So a huge variety of artwork on hand again to accompany Smith and Thompson's narrative. My favourite picture is this Popinjay here. I'll read the bit that goes with it just so you can get an idea. But I love this picture in his in his strange kind of get-up. It's like a onesie with his like a minstrel with his instrument and his pixie boots that he's got wearing there. Very weird, but very suitable for the book. Anyway, it says here, "Nowt but a popinjay," says Gwyneth, as a tall, thin man with a jerky step enters the throne room, kneels and touches his forehead to the floor. He wears the harlequin garb of a travelling entertainer and has a lute strapped to his back. His costume is pink and green, indicating that he has learned his skills on the island of the magical goddess at the school of Dithyrambo. He is either a skilled minstrel or a charlatan. More important, though, is the fact that the travelling players such as he see much of the orb and customarily tell the news of the world in the taverns, the cities that they visit. "What is your name, student of Dithyrambo?" you ask. And then he goes on basically to have a little chat and you can get some interesting news from him because like it says, he kind of travels around and you can get an understanding of the lie of the land a little bit from this Popinjay. So, yeah, great piece of art. I've got some likes and dislikes for Book 5, the beginning of Warbringer, had great atmosphere, really great atmosphere. High stakes and a kind of breathless continuation from the end of Book 4. The addition of the military sequence was really interesting and similar to the sort of governing decisions of Book 4. It's a welcome change from the combat-heavy previous game books, books 1 to 3, that kind of journey that you go on. So we got a change in Book 4, but we got another change here in Book 5. So that's very cool. The supporting cast were giving more weight with the characters such as Anticidus, Gwyneth, the ruler of the spires of foreshadowing, all given a kind of flavour beyond mere enemies or allies. So it's a bit more fleshed out in this book. However, the game part of the book seems a little bit neglected after the first act. The only real kind of dice rolling involved is with this fight you get with Honoric. It's really the only combat, like individual combat, that you get involved in, which is a bit of a shame. But as mentioned before, the ninja skills, they barely get a mention in this one, which is an ongoing thing throughout the rest of this series. They kind of get sidelined a bit, and I missed that after a while. But yeah, I got over it. You also get the feeling that the authors weren't terribly sure if this book would be the final installment in the series. It certainly reads like one, and a lot will argue that perhaps it should have been. It kind of ends on a perfect note, and 6 was got that sort of shoehorned feel into it, but 7 kind of wraps things up. But of course, 7 wasn't written till much later. So yeah, I kind of, as a kid, I thought this was it. But yeah. So with this, books 1 to 4, they had this kind of compelling sequel hooks. But here, it was more, you'll probably have interesting adventures in the future, and it kind of got left like that. And it was just like a bit of an odd way to end the series. So maybe they were contracted to do 6 books, but this kind of felt like the end to me. Fun facts for this one. The image of the ninja moves, I'll put it back up here. I didn't know, but these are Jamie Thompson's illustrations. This is his artwork. And when he submitted it, these images to the publishers, there was a footnote to say, look, I've drawn the images of the ninja moves. Get an artist in to do it properly. But that must have got neglected or just forgotten, because his ended up in the books, as we all know. So this wasn't intended. They kind of look a bit doodly, but I like them. I think they're perfectly fine. I'll put up here a newer version. So when you get these books, the most recent release of them, these are the images of the moves you get. So they're slightly more detailed, but they don't really add anything to it. So I don't know. I like both of them. But yeah, I thought the ones that Jamie Thompson did were quite charming. Weirdly, you read this book as a series. Everyone read it as a series, right? I mean, you wouldn't jump in at book 5 and expect to know what on earth is going on. But when you read this book, if you did jump in at book 5, you open the book, you get welcome to, Warbringer, and here's the adventure sheet. Next page, here's the moves. Background. Reference 1, no instructions at all. Nothing in the back like they do in these modern game books. No instructions at all. So if you were new to this book, how would you know what to do? I mean, I don't know, it's weird. Also, I can't help notice that this isn't my book. I got this in eBay. Someone's written in pen. Sacrilege. Yeah, here we go, look. Not only is someone written in pen, but they wrote that they won the battle. Why would you do that? Why would you write that you won the battle? Right. There's a couple of errors I thought I might mention. Just a couple of minor continuity, nothing terrible. So if you visit the throne room and survive all the traps, you can unlock the sceptre's power. Or you can skip it And then later on, you notice the sceptre and you get the power anyway. It's a bit like the eye. You can put the eye in twice. You can put it in right at the start, and it kind of gives, because obviously it replaces the eye that you lost in book 4. So you put the eye in, and it describes really nicely, like, you can see this hellish green glow through one eye and perfectly fine through the other eye. But about a third way through the book, you do it again as if you hadn't done it before. So it's just a little bit of a continuity thing. So yeah, not a problem. So there's that. And on page or reference 140, you're asked if you know about the crates of wyverns that are going to be used against you in this battle later on. And it's a simple swap of 2 page numbers, basically. If you don't know about the wyverns, then the wizard was prepared for them and knows all about them and can deal with them. If you know about them, then you're surprised. On reference 361, Dharma gives advice as to a potential ally. And then on reference 371, while you're in combat with the cave trolls, that should be reference 261, where you receive more advice about the allies. So it's just a couple of little issues with the numbering, but yeah, not a big deal. And certainly now with the internet and everything, which we didn't have then, but we have now, and we can just check these kind of things, can't we? Anyway, let's do a summary and a score out of 10. Okay, Warbringer is a campaign with 3 acts. The first requires you to make an attempt to locate and kill Shadazar, that sorcerer who's leading that army against your city, before her army kind of destroys the people and the city. This is a standard campaign where you kind of fight all that stand in your way, battle your way through all these orcs and dark elves until you get to her. You've got to defeat her. The second act will require you to kind of listen to your allies in your government, on which neighbouring army you can try to recruit and aid you in this upcoming war. Options range from the armies of the Republic of Sorcerak, where the followers of Dharma and Batan predominate. There's Grey Dawn as well, where the Beastmen and the humans live. And the Spires of Foreshadowing, where the followers of Fate have been looking for an excuse to go to war against Honoric for a while, so they're just itching for it. And they've got Wargrave Abbas, which you have visited before, I think in book 2, the Unpanishad, home to the worshippers and martial artists devoted to your god Quan. So there's plenty of choice, but like I mentioned, it's all down to your relationships with them that have developed over the last few books, and to a certain extent, the beginning of this book as well. Now, naturally, you have to travel to the city that you've picked, that you want to team up with, a journey that is dangerous indeed, and win over the ruler of the city. And that becomes quite a job in itself. How diplomatic are you at trying to sway decisions and bring them on board? Because failure to secure an ally will mean defeat. The act is quite interesting, actually. It introduces more of the culture and the terrain to the land of Orb. And finally, you get that third act, where you and your allies go to war. And that's where that image of the battlefield comes into play. And there's many of them throughout this book. And this is the longest and most significant act in this campaign. The battle strategy played in this gamebook, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I thought it worked really well. It really doesn't matter in the long run where you place your armies, as long as you have enough of them, as long as you sort of play it safely, cautiously and smart. And if the major decisions had been made, had made a bigger impact on the course of events, perhaps this act would have gained a little bit more urgency, potentially. But as it stands, Warbringer attempts to bring something new to the table again, and therefore I have to give the authors plenty of credit for creating something new. To keep this book, this series alive, you've got to have something different each time. And Thompson and Smith have absolutely nailed it with this 5th book. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's very strong. It's a great way to round off what I thought was the end of the series. But yeah, 7 out of 10. It deserves a lot of praise. Right, that's my review for Warbringer. I hope you liked it. If you do like it, tell me what you do like about this, what you don't like, what your thoughts are, whether you finished it. Put it all in the comments. It's great to hear from you. And maybe share it if you think someone else might like it. And I will review book 6, which is Inferno. And I'll do that one next. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next review.